Yeah, it was in my mailbox. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton.
Present.
Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialko.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicki.
Present. Moving on to community recognition, seeming that there's none, we'll move on to F, amendments to the agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fialko, is there a second?
I will second.
Trustee Consolino, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to minutes, seeming there's none, we'll move on to public comments. We're halfway through and we are 2 minutes in. Yeah. And number 1 of 800 is Christy Nazar.
It's so nice and warm here. Can I
Yes.
stay here all night? Oh, it's so cold in my house. Hi, my name is Christy Nasser, Chrisland Farm on 143rd Street. I'm here to just briefly talk about 143rd Street and ask a question to, if you are going to be filing a lawsuit like the Homer Glen Township and when you might be doing so. I hope everybody is online when you're going to do that because it's security in numbers. If we all pool our resources together in Homer Glen, and can we get this done? So that's kind of why I was asking about that too. And I would hope that the village and the township and the village and everybody would work together, that there's no animosity whatsoever, that we can go forward on a positive note and see if we can get 143rd Street under control and do what's right for the community and keep it in such a special place as it's growing to be, which I think every day I get more proud of Homer Glen and what we're all doing for the community and the people that are in it. So thank you.
Thank you. Agnes Tustanowski? Did you want to speak or did you have an item on the agenda today? Okay, no worries. John Walters?
Hi, I'm John Walters, Dixon Lane. Wanted to do something a little different today. We just did the pledge.
Mike, sorry, Mr. Walters, would you mind moving the microphone? It's rubbing up against your sweatshirt. There you go.
How about that? I wanted to do something a little different. We just did the pledge, and in the pledge we said, one nation under God. So I wanted to add a little prayer to that. God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Ishmael, God of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all glory and honor go to you. God of infinite mercy and love, forgive us our transgressions and help us to sin no more. Thank you for the gifts of life and for being our God. You are a faithful Father, and you never abandon us in our time of need. Today we bring you all those who are undergoing trial and suffering in any way. Be with those who are sick and experiencing pain. Help us to bring them your consolation and healing. Be with those who are struggling under the weight of their burdens. Help us to carry it with them. Be with us and with the loneliest persons in our community. Help us to be present with them and be with anybody who is feeling lost right now and help us bring them peace. Oh, Heavenly Father, we surrender ourselves to you. You take care of everything. Amen.
Amen.
And I'd like to wish Heidi Hadley happy birthday.
David Buckley?
Hi, my name's Dave Buckley. I live at 13600 Pheasant Circle. Basically, I'm going to describe an incident that happened on Saturday February 24th at 2:45, I observed Jennifer Consolino in front of my house, my neighbor's house, taking pictures of their house. As I walked outside of my driveway, her and a female friend were driving a small lime green SUV. When I walked out through my driveway, the two quickly sped away after taking pictures of my house. Multiple neighbors also confirmed seeing the lime green SUV. I live in an elongated cul-de-sac, so there's one way in and one way out. As Trustee Consolino drove around the Pheasant Circle, I saw the same lime green SUV at the end of my street, where Creekview meets Pheasant Circle. As I continued to leave my house for the grocery store, I witnessed Consolino taking my picture. As I drove down my street, she pointed her phone in my direction and continued taking photos of me as I drove down the street from my own driveway. On Monday, I learned that Consolino had posted these pictures on social media. The post was made from an anonymous contributor stating, "Beware of a suspicious man harassing women and children." The post included the pictures that I witnessed her take of my car, my license plate, as I was leaving my own house. This post is a clear attempt at slandering as well as defamation of one of the residents she claims to represent. Content of the post is illegal and was made from a dubious account to protect her own identity. Yesterday, I engaged legal counsel specializing in these matters and began filing a defamation case regarding her actions and her intentions towards me. We've been tracking down the IP address from where this post was made through the proper channels, social media and provider and the authorities. I witnessed her taking these pictures, and I intend to gather additional evidence to support the case. We're also gathering evidence of other anonymous accounts she has created and other attempts at slandering many other residents and defamation. As a father of three and a respected resident of the village, I fear for my kids, the other kids in the neighborhood. Considering her history of incivility, I would never have thought such behavior from an elected official would occur in this village. These actions question her intentions and ability to make decisions on behalf of the residents. As a collective that represent trust, do we want this type of person on the board? This creates a public embarrassment for the entire village. If the post is not taken down immediately, I'll be forced to continue with this investigation, pursue legal action regarding Trustee Consolino's behavior towards me. Thanks.
Scott Perry. This is Scott, right? Scott, oh, okay, sorry.
Good evening. I just wanted to talk for a few minutes about the 143rd Street expansion. I appreciate the city's support and also the township support in what we're doing, trying to do with 143rd Street. I understand that there's legal action in progress, and hopefully that'll be successful. If not, what I'd like the city to consider is supporting a move to overturn the veto. From what I understand, it can take a 3/5 majority to overturn the veto. There are 22 board members, and 13 voted for the proposal. So that basically means I think one more person would be enough to overturn the veto, and that's assuming, of course, that the people that voted for the proposition would support a veto. You have to ask the question, okay, what does it take to turn one or more votes around? I think one is the third lane dedicated turning lane option. It wasn't clearly described. In fact, it was misrepresented when it was discussed before the county board. The way it was set up was that they would do a third turning lane with ditches and swales, and then then said, well, that would take us, the take of resident property would be just as big that way, and so, why would you even consider that? But if the third lane were done with curbs and sewers, it would require no additional resident take. They could do it with the land that they already have. I don't think that was made clear to the county board. I think if that was made clear, particularly, if somebody, I'm not a road guy, but if a road person that was experienced in roads made that clear to the county board, it may change a vote or two. The second thing is, I'm not sure that the county executive really was forthright with the county board on her intent to veto. And, you know, you would think that she would make that intent clearer so that board members had an opportunity to work that issue, maybe to, you know, revise the resolution a little bit to help satisfy her concerns. So if I were a board member, I might, you know, change my vote to support the resolution just to make the point to the county executives that that really wasn't respectful of the county board, the way that issue got handled. So I think there's some opportunity. Those are just two things I can think of. There's probably other things. I'm not a politician, but those are two things that I could think of that you know, may help turn the tide on that. So really, you know, we just suggest
Your
that you
time has
consider that
expired.
and potentially support a veto override. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Brent Portfolio.
Brent Portfolio, Homer Township Highway Commissioner. Wow, this is, whew. I wanted to speak about the advisory vote coming up on the primary ballot, give some numbers from the road district's perspective and a few facts. Okay, let's start with the Illinois policies and laws. The Illinois Constitution allows any county to dissolve every single township within its boundaries, but it cannot dissolve a single township unless there is authority that comes from the General Assembly. So basically, there's got to be a bill that comes out of the General Assembly for that to happen. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Something else, and I'm going to read from the Illinois policy. This is right from it. Townships that are coterminous, that means that their jurisdictions have the same boundaries as a municipality, are treated differently from ones that are not. Now, in Homer Township, there's a number of municipalities. We have New Lenox, we have Lockport, we have Lamont, and of course, we have Homer Glen. So if this vote on this primary was for a referendum, every single one of those municipalities would have to vote on it to dissolve it, along with the people in unincorporated Homer Township. I don't know if that's been brought up before, but I wanted to just gloss over that. Something else that I just found out, and I'm trying to get the paperwork on it, is that there are two subdivisions in Homer Township, Forest Manor and Lockport Heights. They have contracts with the city of Lockport that says they cannot be force annexed by Lockport or any other municipality, and there is no sunset date on that, which means they could never be annexed by anybody. That would include Homer Glen. That's an important thing to look at. And lastly, I'm bringing up these numbers again because I brought it up before and I want to reinforce it. The road district, our budget last year was $813,000 after the half share, $43,000 per mile. I FOIA'd or someone that I know FOIA'd the budget for Homer Glen, and I looked up the capital improvement projects for the village. They come from a number of different funds: general fund, MFT fund, capital project fund, and capital project bond fund. So anything that has a capital improvement for roadway, sidewalk, sewer, lighting, curb and gutter, anything within the right-of-way is a capital improvement. No matter where the expense funding comes from, it's an expense. $7.18 million, which equates to $54,000 a mile. So those are the two numbers I want to impress.
Expired.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Portfolio. Heidi? Happy birthday, Heidi.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Heidi, and I'm just here for the 143rd Street Road project. And I just wanted to bring a couple of issues out into the open so the public can have information and do as they want with it. First is if the veto was done properly by the Will County Executive. The resolution was simply stating that the road project was going to be halted as planned. It was going to, if it was voted through, it was going to be redesigned is what was going to happen. It wasn't, they weren't voting to stop the project altogether. So if anyone wanted to make sure the veto was done properly. Secondly, I was informed by Will County that the 143rd Street was offered to Homer Glen, the village of Homer Glen, and they declined to take it. Maybe that needs to be addressed as well. Also, as far as the mayor of Orland Park speaking out for this road, in Orland Park, 143rd is a state road. When you go into Homer Glen, it's a county road. So I'm not sure if maybe the state is looking at 143rd as the 5 lanes that Keith Pekow wants in Orland Park needs to progress into Homer Glen as 5 lanes as well. I'm not sure if maybe that's why there are 12 or so mayors in Cook County villages that signed a letter for Keith for this. I'm not sure. Also, I'm just looking at my notes. That pretty much sums up what I wanted to put out there, and maybe it'll spark someone's interest to further investigate. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, public comment is closed. Reports and communications from president and other officers. Village manager Joe Baber, can you pass that down to?
Just today, or the last few days, I've reached out to members of the Northern Will County Water Agency, and we have discussions going on regarding a strategy addressing the ICC proposed rate increase, and I will keep everybody informed as we move forward with that issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Village trustees, trustee McNaughton,
No, ma'am, thank you.
trustee Consolino.
Oh, I wasn't going to give a report tonight, but since Mr. Dave Buckley decided to slander me, I think it's very important that I do make some comments and make a request at the end of this. Point of order.
What's your point?
Excuse me, point of order?
You have to state your point.
He was whispering over there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. You have to state your point of order after
Thank you.
state
Can I
that.
speak now? It is my report.
Trustee Consolino, we're not going to go through this every board.
No, point of order, I'd like to speak and give my report. Since Mr. Buckley has chosen to slander me publicly during my village board meeting tonight, I think it's only fair that I rebut this false statement and clear my name. So yes, on Saturday, 2/25, I was out driving about with several other individuals and a child in a vehicle. I wasn't driving, and I did not stalk or follow Mr. Buckley at any point. I, however, was a passenger in the vehicle at the time with another person driving who's an elected official, with a third passenger, and with a child. So excuse me, point of order with the humps. As I accompanied these 3 women and a child, we delivered several flyers to specific households in that neighborhood, and I do have the address of the households that flyers were delivered to. None of that is illegal to do. However, Mr. Buckley clearly saw us driving around and doing this, and then followed us through his subdivision. And he pulled alongside so closely to our car at one point, we couldn't move. He rolled down his window, directly looked at us. Well, you know, Mr. Buckley, I have several witnesses, females that were extremely terrified, and a child crying in the back because you tried to intimidate. So I'm going to save the rest of this because I'm going to request that the officer in the back, could you please see me after the meeting? I'm going to file a formal complaint, file a police report, and I'll have the witnesses come and present themselves up here as well, so you could take their statements. So when you go to make false statements because you happen to be running on a campaign that your mayor has publicly endorsed you for, along with Trustee Stylen, Trustee Mason, and Trustee McNaughton, you should choose your words very wisely and carefully when you choose to do slander or defamation of character. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
Okay, on a better note, we had our first informational mental health panel discussion on February 24th. This event was a huge success and we had a great turnout. I want to give thanks to our own village staff for setting this up and bringing awareness throughout the village from our own website to and other avenues. I also want to thank our moderator, Kelly Calderon, who sits on the Behavioral Health and Addiction Recovery Committee, and the professional panel of speakers, Dr. Snow, Dr. Tony, Mark Raber, the Will County Health Department, and Connie DeWall, John Roberts, and Bonnie Tongston with Heroes. I'm sure I'm missing some folks, and I apologize for that. We also had some Narcan training that took about 10 minutes and could help to save someone's life. We touched on issues from ADD to drug addiction and mental health and the causes. Other professionals that were in attendance were Lockport's Township, William Piper. He is a community risk reduction officer. It is very nice to see a township offer a multitude of services, including mental health services at no cost to the user. This is free of charge to the taxpayer. You can get help if you need it in person or by video for an array of issues: depression, anxiety, stress, grief, loss of family, conflicts, etc. This is for mental health treatment for residents without health care insurance and is covered by Lockport Township government. You will need to contact Lockport for a voucher number at 815-834-8811. This is a township service that I wish our own township offered, because it is quintessential, and this is a service that a township should be providing. Township should be working for you, the people. Another resource that came to light was Trinity Services Incorporated. They help people with disabilities and mental health issues in Will and Grundy counties. They can be reached at 815-409-7917. They operate a division of the Trinity called Living Room. They are a 24/7, 365 operation. They are there to help decompress, give assistance to anyone 12 years and above who has experienced mental health crisis. They are located in Orland Park and will connect people with the support and resources free of charge. Their model is find safety, comfort, and calm in time of crisis. I hope this information helps our residents, and we plan to have additional events in the future to help assist and inform our friends and neighbors. Thanks to all again who participated and helped with this event. Next, I'd like to discuss Long Run Creek. Today, a Zoom call transpired between local Homer Glen resident, civil engineer, Mr. Dave Buckley, the Cook County court system, a Cook County resident, and his attorney. The County of Cook and its resident is the defendant in this court case. The owner has structures in both the floodplain and the floodways. This is in clear violation and impeding the natural flow of things. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources issued a complaint letter to this Cook County resident who has been violating their ordinances on the western edge and participating in the flooding issues along Long Run Creek. A review fee of $3,460 has been issued to the landowner. His argument is that he is agricultural and has exemptions. However, there are not any exemptions for agriculture in floodways. I am sure a fine will follow once this comes to completion. This is all through the efforts of Mr. Buckley, who has been on these Zoom calls once a month for the last 2 years and leading the charge, prior to me even being the chair of this committee. Mr. Westcott and myself have been on a few of these Zoom calls as well. However, nothing had transpired prior to myself chairing the safety committee and learning of these issues. Mr. Westcott and I will walk the property in question on Friday to ensure that no fill has been brought in, because this too would be in violation of the wetlands ordinances of Cook County. Another Cook County resident has been ordered to move the 7 semi-containers that were on his property. This is an additional complaint, and again in the floodplain and impeding the floodway. So to bring residents up to date on the 2 property owners on the Cook County side of the eastern edge, These have now been cleared, the containers have been removed, the owner was held in contempt until this was completed. I want to, and I believe the village wants to, and Long Run Creek residents want to express our gratitude and thanks to Mr. Dave Buckley for his due diligence and tenaciousness. Thanks again, Dave. Last but not least, in 1908, excuse me, I'm thirsty. In 1908, a great unrest and critical debate was occurring among women. Women oppressed and inequality spurring women to become more vocal and active in campaigning for change. Then in 1908, 15,000 women marched on New York City demanding shorter work hours and better pay and voting rights. On this day, February 28th in 1909, the first National Women's Day was observed in the United States. The history of the Women's Day and this movement in the United States is the International Women's Day celebrated in many countries around the world. It is a day when women are recognized for their achievements without regards to divisions, whether national, ethnic, linguistic, cultural, economic, or political. Since those early years, International Women's Day has assumed a new global dimension for women in developing and developed countries alike. The growing international movement for women, which has been strengthened through women's conferences, has helped make the commemoration a rallying point to build support for women's rights and participate in the politically and economic arenas. Obviously, we have come a long way. I want to personally say thank you to the women of the village board, and especially our very own Madam Mayor, Christine Netsky-Troike. The first keys of this movement officially were recognized in 1977. International Women's Day first emerged from the activities of labor movements at the turn of the 20th century in North America and across Europe. National Women's Day in America is now observed on March 8th. I invite you to learn about the history of women's rights and the contributions to this cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Or Trustee Mason, sorry. Trustee Fialko?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No report.
Trustee Stylen?
Thank you. I just want to say to Trustee Mason, I attended your workshop on Saturday and found it very informative, and I did hear from several residents that they appreciated the workshop as well and would like to see more of the same. Thank you. And other than that, I have no report.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders?
I have no report, but I would just like to, I have no report, but I would just like to thank Trustee Mason for recognizing women on this day and for the history lesson. Thank you.
Oh, everyone had a short report tonight. Village Clerk?
Just a reminder that early voting is still going on.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Our office, the office of Peterson Johnson Murray, was asked by the village manager, Joe Baber, to take a look at a couple of the existing contractual agreements that they have for use and for licensing various recreational courts and facilities here in the village. Our firm is still getting that prepared for Mr. Baber. That should be finalized by the end of this week. Secondly, I was asked again by Mr. Baber, in addition to the Board of Trustees, to take a look at the temporary sign ordinances that we have here in the village and to see what nature of restrictions can be placed on the signs, given some of the concerns that were raised the last board meeting. I spoke with the village manager last week, and he had asked that I give a brief discussion about that in my report today. To whatever extent my time, Madam Mayor, exceeds, I'd be asking for additional time just to finish it.
I don't think you have a time limit.
Okay, terrific. I don't have a time limit. That's great. So I guess I'll be able to continue with it. So I just want to start off with thanking Trustees Fialko, Consolino. They had provided me some literature, some copies of excerpts for some Senate bills, in addition to state law and some other literature for us to look at to start our process. And that was done just to, to continue with this board's mission and keeping total costs down. Meaning attorney's fees cost. So both Trustees Consolino, Village Manager Baber, in addition to Trustee Fialko, did provide my office, through me, just some statutes and such, just to get the ball rolling. And I wanted to acknowledge that they did that for us, and I appreciate that. Secondly, so in looking at where we stand, I just want to give an overview of what a home rule municipality is. Oftentimes, the residents don't quite know exactly what that means and how that affects them and how that affects the local unit of government that you currently reside in. Home rule municipality, which the Village of Homer Glen is, the Illinois Constitution, Section 6 of the Illinois Constitution, gives the authority of home rule units, which the Village of Homer Glen is, the ability to regulate the affairs of this locality. And when I talk about affairs, we're talking about regulating the traditional affairs of the state, and that's the public health, safety, and welfare, generally speaking. That's to regulate the public health, safety, and welfare of its citizenry that live here. Unlike non-home rule entities that may be restricted to contract by the legislature from land usage and some of the effects of their administrative actions, home rule municipalities are given very broad authorities by this Illinois Constitution. However, that grant of authority is not absolute. The legislature can, constitutionally, limit the spheres of areas that a local home rule municipality can regulate in. In the situation of temporary signs, dealing with campaign signs, the Illinois legislature did just that. And again, I want to thank Trustees Falco for providing us this information to give us this background so this could be short and sweet for you all. But the actual section that we have is Section 1113-1, Part 12 of the Illinois Municipal Code. It states as follows, that other than reasonable restrictions as to size, no home rule or non-home rule municipality may prohibit the display of outdoor political campaign signs on residential property during any period of time. The regulation of these signs being a power and function of the state, and therefore this item 12 is a affirmative denial and limitation of concurrent home rule powers and functions under subsection 1 of section 6 of Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution. So, although traditionally home rule units do have the authority to regulate and signage and things of these natures, in this specific sphere, by this state law that was passed, and it was adopted, and it's law of the land in this state of Illinois, Illinois statute expressly removed the Village of Homer Glen's ability to regulate in this sphere, okay? So where does that take us? What can we do? There are two trains of thought. One, this is an area that we don't regulate at all. We stay away from it because the legislature from Illinois certainly their command is that this is something within their function. Or two, we take a look at what they have allowed us to regulate in, and that is reasonable restrictions as to size. That's something that the village board certainly can discuss amongst itself in its deliberations as to what limitations, what reasonable limitations on signs can be accommodated in conjunction with the limitations that First Amendment rights put upon us. Meaning, you know, you don't want to be in a situation where a law is passed or an ordinance is passed basically restricting by way of size, total square footage area, that may limit the amount of candidates or issues, political issues, that an individual may want to convey. It's certainly the opinion of our firm that that would cross the line of violations of First Amendment rights, and that's traditionally something that home rule municipalities run the risk of facing an ACLU challenge or challenge by an individual resident who wants to convey their political message. So in some, although local home rule municipalities traditionally have the authority to regulate in this sphere, this specific sphere, the state legislature has removed the village board's authority here to regulate in this area expressly, removed its home rule authority under Section 6. It's expressly done here. It's our opinion that it would divest the ability of this board to regulate political campaign signs, with the exception of reasonable size restrictions. And that's all the report that I have with regards to this. Any questions that anyone has, I'm sure the trustees may have during new business or old business, certainly I'll be prepared to ask at that point. Lastly, outside of the contracts for recreational uses and services that Mr. Bayrett asked us to look at, we're also looking into preparing a standard purchase order form for the village because some of the terms and conditions that we're dealing with now in the context of the park usage and the facility licensing fees, a lot of those terms have carryover to purchase agreements. Contemporaneously, at the same time, we're looking to see if some of those terms can be used to streamline a future purchase order for the village, because it's cost efficient. We're doing that work anyway, and it makes sense to just translate that over to a potential purchase order in the future. And that was something that our firm's working with Mr. Baber on as well. So that's all we have for our report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety officials? Do you have anything? No? Okay. All right. My turn. I do have a lot of questions about the signage, so we'll talk about it under old business, because I'm sure everybody kind of wants to have a discussion on it. Okay. Trustee Mason, your event that you had, I heard nothing but amazing things about it. I heard it was great. It was informative. The one request that we kept getting at the village was that if they would be so kind to make it live so people can watch it. I understand that it could be risky because people who are attending the meeting may not want it to be advertised that they're at the meeting, so I do get that. So maybe we can work out the kinks on that. So at least the people that are speaking could be, you know, live. I don't just something, but I did hear really good feedback on that. You had mentioned about the township. I think you should reach out to them. I do. I mean, we have Mr. Portfolio here. He heard you. Maybe the two of you guys can work on something together to help provide that, because the township does encompass other areas in Will County too. So it might be a nice little olive branch there. A couple of the statements that were made by the residents today, I just would like to address a few. I don't remember who said it, but there was something about that the road was offered to us. The road was not, Ms. Heidi, that's who said it. I was just weren't informed. So the road wasn't offered to us as a board, as a collective board. It was offered nonchalantly in a meeting that was had at the county. So there was no formal things about it, which I don't want to talk too much about what was said at those meetings, because just like someone else stated, that possible lawsuits. So right after we found out that the county executive had filed the paperwork, we heard that she was going to veto it. Well, according to state statute, and I'm not an attorney, but this comes straight from the state statute, if the county executive approves such an ordinance, resolution, or motion, the county executive shall sign it. So to me, that says that she approved it and it was a done deal. Submitting it to the clerk's office is just affirming the first affirmative motion of her signing the resolution. So when we're asked if we're going to hire an attorney to file, an injunction on this, Mr. Baber had sent out an email to the entire board because we didn't have a meeting. We all can't get together and discuss that. So it was the consensus of the board that we do have a small issue. Our law firm, there's a kind of a conflict of interest there, because one of the attorneys are a special counsel or state. Go ahead.
The law firm is appointed special assistant state's attorneys in Will County, and we serve on an appointment basis, on a case-by-case basis. And currently, we have cases ongoing where we are special assistant state's attorneys, not in this sphere, but because we hold that technical appointment in that office. The managing partner of our firm indicated that would be something that we would not be able to participate in.
What he said. So we are in the process of looking at getting an attorney. So what we were waiting for was an opinion from the state's attorney. From what I understand, the opinion was sent out to the county board yesterday. I did receive phone calls from the county board and was supposed to actually receive that opinion via email so I could read it today. I have reached out a couple of times to see if I can actually get the actual opinion, because I don't want to plagiarize what was said, and I haven't received it. So unfortunately, from what I understand, is that the state's attorney's opinion on what took place is unclear. Yes, so basically what the state's attorney is saying is exactly what I said. Once your signature is affixed to the paperwork, it should be done. But it is up to the county clerk to make the decision if a mistake was made. So this is where you get into the definition of what is a mistake. So that's where, we're waiting even further. We don't want to waste money by hiring an attorney and going through this process and then realizing that the clerk's office is just going to say there wasn't a mistake. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but in the meanwhile, we are looking for an attorney to back us up without saying anything else, right? I'd love to get into all the details of what happened and share stories, but I just can't right at the moment. There was another comment about forced annexation for the advisory question. Nobody is going to force annex anybody. Just so that's very clear. The scare tactics, the rumor mill that's out there, I just really wish it would end. It's an advisory question. That is it. Okay, next. It is very nice to see that residents that came here for Hadley Road are here to support their neighbors on 143rd Street. That is really awesome to see, because it tends to happen where it's not my part of the town, it's not my problem, but that is the problem that we're having. Our residents really need to work together and help out each other, but regardless of what side of town you live on, we should all be supporting each other. So I think that's really cool, and my comments especially go to Miss Heidi, because she's been here with all the road projects, so thank you. And her husband, I believe, is behind her. Okay, a couple other things. There were some comments made back and forth. It's very tough as a resident to be picked on, bullied, harassed on Facebook, cyberbullied, stalked, whatever it is, by elected officials. I've sat on this board now for quite some time, and the last 2 years have been nothing but problems. So it does take a strong, independent resident to come up and speak up against stuff like that. So I'm proud that the residents are doing this. But I also would encourage that we make sure that we do have all of our information and facts straight too. I don't know what happened. I'm just hearing about this, so I'm unsure, but it's not the first time, so I understand. So I do appreciate people speaking up when necessary. Couple other things. Task force, it was brought up the last meeting. We're looking into starting a water task force again. There's many reasons about why we need to do this, where we have a potential increase coming. We want to get residents involved. We want to have our voices be heard. So if you have any interest in being you don't even have to be a committee member, but even if you're just coming to the meetings, there's power in numbers, as we know, with 143rd Street and Hadley Parker Road. So if anybody's interested in helping out your neighbors that have high water bills, even if you have water and sewer, it's still nice to help out your neighbors. The Planning Commission is still looking to fill their vacancy. So is the Ability Awareness Committee. Trustee Silent, are you still looking for one on your committee as well?
We could always use more.
Okay, so the Community Development Committee is also looking to fill a vacancy. I think that's all I had for right now. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for period of February 17th, 2024 through February 29th, 2024 in the amount of $395,150.81. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko, is there a
second.
second? Trustee Reiners, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Motion carries. Legislation and action items. Consider for approval an ordinance granting request for one, a special use permit for a single-family home on a lot of less than 10 acres of land area, but at least 1 acre in size, and 2, vehicle access across the lot to the east lot 1 of Long Run Estates subdivision, where no lot shall be used for motor vehicle access to any other lot and land unless such access has been approved by the village board for certain real property located in the A1 agricultural district at PIN 160504100010000. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second? Hearing no. Okay, Trustee Reinders. Discussion, trustee Steilen.
I have a question for the attorney, I think, on this. This is going to expire within a year, or if the interest goes to a different, am I on the wrong one?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, my apologies. I had a side question.
Okay. If the, or it expires if they sell the property.
Correct.
Okay. What, is there something that guarantees or tells us if somebody wants to build a house on the other lot, does an arrangement have to be made to show that they can put the driveway across the lot?
I don't follow that. I'm sorry.
Okay, because this is the one that has where they want to access
139.
off 130, they want to be able to have a driveway go across another lot to access their lot. But the person applying owns both lots. So if somebody builds a house, if he decides to sell that lot, that second lot, that he's now built a driveway across, is there something that has to take place?
There would be an easement there. It would be...
It's just a formal easement filed with...
I don't, I'm not his attorney.
Okay.
There would be an easement. If there's if someone sells a lot with a driveway and someone's traversing across that driveway for access and there's no access that other lot has, there's an easement by operational law with respect there to have access there.
Okay.
But certainly that landowner should go about what he needs to do and record a proper easement there and get insurance and so on and so forth with respect to that.
Okay, and then my only concern is that it goes to Longman Creek and protecting the creek and the wetlands and where this driveway is likely to take place is at the high point of the property, and there are a lot of trees on that property. And I was wondering, is the petitioner here?
I'm back.
Okay. And I'm wondering, what are you going to do to mitigate, prevent taking down trees?
There are no trees there.
Where the driveway is going to go?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so then and this is just to permit you to build a house. We're not telling you what kind of house. You're going to have to come back to the village and prove to us that you're not going to harm the wetlands or affect the Long Run Creek in any way.
Correct. The house is going to be more than 1,000 feet away from Long Run Creek.
Okay.
So over 3 football fields.
From the wetlands?
Well, actually the property is actually in Zone X. It's not.
This is for the road.
It's not in floodplain. There's Zone AE and Zone X. The house is going to go in the Zone X area on the property. There's over 2 acres of Zone X. So I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same property, because I think somebody went out there and said it was wet. It's not wet here. So I just want to make sure you were looking at the right one. This is over 1,000 feet away from Long Run Creek and 1,600 feet away from Creekview or whatever. So. And I still have that other 5 acres that's adjacent to it that I'm not building on. So that was going to be, kind of a buffer area to Long Run Creek. It's a big property.
Right.
So
but if you
I wanted to reassure you.
The concern is just then if you do sell the 2 lots and then there's more building and that you just...
Well, you're not going to allow that to happen. I know that, right? So you've been nice to me.
Trustee Steilen, are you done?
I'm done, thank you.
I do just want to read it's not on the agenda, but it's on the motion sheet, and I didn't read the rest of it, but it says, subject to the following: A, expiration with 1 year or upon the transfer of any percentage of legal or beneficial interest from the current title holder of record to any entities, or individuals, whichever occurs first, and B, by the village code requirements, which include but are not limited to a comprehensive zoning, engineering, and floodplain map review, and any future conditions and requirements related thereto. Sorry, I should have added that.
What's the first part? I didn't even see this yet, so. What was the first part of it?
So basically, it's just saying an expiration within 1 year.
From when?
Approval.
From approval.
Like today?
Yes.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to build there first, so maybe this is a waste of time then. I was going to build on Jessica first. I was just trying to get this done because I needed to have this all done as one package.
Melissa?
I was not aware of that.
Well, I mean, eventually I was gonna, but I had to have this done in order to even build on Jessica.
I was not aware of that.
So maybe he can clarify. So maybe you can clarify for us.
Sure.
So this is basically just for the road to go across
Yeah,
the
this
two
is
lots.
right. It's just
That
to
is basically
access.
it.
Right, well, I had to come here because it was under 10 acres.
Right, because it's under 10 acres, and to make sure that we're going to give you approval for the road so that you can go ahead and start your engineering process.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just to allow that
I just wanted to
driveway
clarify that.
instead
Okay.
of coming off of 139th Street.
Right.
May I ask?
Trustee Reinders, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Trustee Mason?
So, according to this, the expiration in 1 year, this is for the road then, only, and you will have that done, and that's on the high land within a year?
I could, if you want
Well,
me to.
it'll
I mean, I
expire,
wasn't-
it will expire in
Well, I
1
didn't know
year.
that until just now,
Okay,
so that's why I brought it up.
so maybe, I don't know.
So if it expires in 1 year, then you would have, if within 1 year you do not put this road in, you will have to come back to this
Right,
board.
well, I know that now.
Okay.
You're so nice.
Well, I'm just, been around the block. So.
Hold on, let me go through the whole board. Trustee McNaughton, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Trustee Consolino, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns in regards to the drainage and the flooding especially, and I talked to staff about this. I didn't get to talk to Mr. Westcott though. You know, even though the Planning Commission was okay with the 7-0, a lot of neighbors complained about their concern for flooding and drainage. I also am aware about the conservation ordinance that Will County followed when they did these plots of land. It's not kind of what we use today. Now that we're hearing these other little pieces in here, you know, like with Long Run Creek, as you know, Trustee Mason, funds were allocated from COVID to help with creek erosion and the issues with the flooding that continually happen year after year. I have a lot of concerns that if we're not completely shored up on this, on what exactly you're doing, sir, and how you're doing it, and when you're doing it, I think there needs to be more discussion with staff involved here tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't
Can
aware
staff please
of
give their
the-
opinions on this?
Sorry.
Oh, you're,
No,
okay. Yes, but just a reminder that all comments need to be directed to me, not other board members. Who would you like to speak? Melissa? Brett?
Yes, please. Melissa?
The drainage?
Yes.
So Trustee Consolino asked me today about the drainage complaints that were made, I think, during the public hearing, and then kind of a history of drainage in the area on Long Run Creek. And I do think we had quite a few residents from nearby, a couple of residents that live in Long Run Acres. They live in lots on the south side of the cul-de-sac off of Jessica Lane. And then there was another resident who doesn't live in this neighborhood, but right nearby. And I think we heard general complaints about flooding, right, that occurs along Long Run Creek, which I think there's a history of it. And I think it's complicated. Brett and I discussed this today a little bit because a lot of the property, particularly, I think it's called Creekwood, which is that old subdivision that was platted in the 40s that's to the east of here, and then one right next to it, I think. There are structures that are in the floodplain in areas. I mean, it is, I think they haven't been studied, but you can, from the mapping, just on like a cursory review, I think that there's some clear issues with how things were platted and built decades ago. And that's not how we or our codes, this village and our codes are set up to handle new development. This would not happen under our current codes. And so I think some of what we deal with are existing conditions that are not caused by development that's approved here in this village. That doesn't mean that there's not issues on Long Run, right? So I understand that your concern and I feel like there was a plethora of comments. I think there's just concern about building anything. I think there was concerns, like Trustee Reinders, you mentioned, why would you even want to build out here? I think that comment was kind of made at the Planning Commission as well. I think I would also like to address Brett and just have him answer questions about the history in our office about what we've received in the engineering department and what they've received with regard to complaints out there in that area.
Mr. Westcott?
Absolutely. So I've only been here for less than 2 years. I haven't received a ton of complaints for this Long Run Creek area, but I know there has been a history of flooding concerns over in there. the biggest thing that I wanted to address, if everyone wants to look at page 7 of 24, and that's that diagram, that GIS printout there. And what I wanted to point your attention to is what's the hashed red area, and that is what's called the regulatory floodway. So that area that's hashed out there is, in the event of this 100-year flood event, is the designed area where this water is supposed to go, essentially. It's what they've studied and calculated. This is where the flow is going, through that hashed area. So there's no development, right, that's supposed to occur within that floodway. Whether that happened in the past, right, there are potentially some lots that have happened downstream of there that were built in the floodway. They shouldn't be, right, ideally. But, you know, on some of these properties, it's, you know, identifying the difference between what flooding is beyond those bounds, right, and then what is part of a studied floodway, a regulatory floodway that you know is impacted by these heavy storms. So again, you know, just reiterating that the portion that he's proposing to build on up there on the north side of this parcel is outside of the regulatory floodway 1, and it's also outside of the special flood hazard area. So again, you know, pending further investigation and engineering reports from the proposed builder, you know, we wouldn't know what that impact is. But regardless, he's still held to, you know, full enforcement of FEMA and all of those requirements and impacts to the special flood hazard area as well. So that's...
Can I take a time out for a second? Because I'm like super lost for a second.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
This paper that you're showing is page 7. The yellow box.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that where the house is supposed to go?
The yellow box is the property, and the small little tiny triangular portion that's not shaded blue inside of that box on the very north end of that parcel is where he's proposing to place the house, the resident.
That's over 2 acres.
Okay, but then the next question was, you said you were going to build on Jessica.
Yeah, there's a...
And where's that house?
That's adjacent directly
That's
west.
to the east.
So it'd be to the...
On the other side of the blue bubble?
That would be to the east, closer on the far side of this parcel here.
Yeah,
Is it within the pink lines?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the pink lines are.
So it's that small triangle?
We talking code up here?
It's that small triangle next to it?
Yeah, I don't know what the pink lines are.
He doesn't have, do you have it?
Yeah, I got a copy.
triangle.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So it's this top one right up here, this tiny triangle?
Yeah, well, actually, that's 3.5 acres also, but there's, again, wetland delineation for that property also.
I see. I'm just trying to get a grasp of what's where.
Yeah, I don't know what the pink means, but that is all Zone X also. That is also Zone X. I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's not AE or floodplain or anything like that. All that area to the east is all Zone X, so.
And the long yellow line is your driveway.
That would be the drive. I think more of the complaints came from not wanting that driveway to come off of 139th Street. I mean, there was 5 people here that didn't want, you know, that to come off the 130, which I completely agree with. I mean, that's going to be a major hardship to run a driveway a third of a mile.
Yeah, it's quite the distance.
Over a floodway on top of it. So that's why I thought this, would be...
Going right across the floodway, the red.
I thought this would be the least...
Okay, hold on one second. I know this is Trustee Consolino's time, but...
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I want to address
You're
any
fine, you're fine. But Melissa, I know you had something and Brett had something, so I didn't know if...
I think it's better to let the staff to speak to this.
I just have one more thing to add, and it's not related to drainage, so as long as we've answered your questions, yes?
Yes.
I think that due to the confusion about where the active building was going to occur, not that I want you to have to come back again, but I think staff needs to look at this. I almost feel, I kind of agree with Paul, this may be premature. I also think that even if he wants to build a driveway to this property, we're still going to be asking for all kinds of stuff on this back property, and I don't know what that is right now, you know, and I don't want,
I just feel like staff needs some time to process.
I mean, if I can't engineer it, I'm not going to build a house there.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, but
I
we need
mean,
more time to assess the,
I'm not going
So
to.
if I'm going to finish with the rest of the board for their concerns first, and then maybe somebody might make a motion to table this to a later date.
We can table
That was my
it.
plan.
Trustee Fialko, did you have anything?
Make
Did
a
I ask you
motion to
already?
table L1.
and I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on the table?
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Okay, the table carries. Thank you, we're sorry, just give us some more time and our staff will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Okay. Number 2. Consider for approval an ordinance requesting an extension of ordinance 23-016 that granted a special use permit for a major amendment to the Homer Glen Bell Plaza Planned Unit Development PUD for certain exceptions. 2, a special use permit for a drive-through establishment, and 3, a site plan for certain real property generally located in the C2 Local Business District at 14402 South Bell Road, Lot 1 of the Squistito Place subdivision, and also Lot 8 of Homer Glen Bell Plaza PUD, Homer Glen, Illinois. HG 2226 PUD, Lot 8 of Homer Glen Plaza. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Reinders?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Reinders?
Basically, I think what's happening here is they're coming back, their one-year period has expired, and they're asking for an extension. This is the plaza directly, like behind, like where Taco Bell is over there, if I'm, yeah, just to the south of it. So their time has expired for, with them to build, and after reviewing all this, basically, with the cost of construction going up and materials and things like that, it's really caused it's caused a delay for them. So they're just asking for an extension.
Trustee Mason?
I concur. That's exactly the way I read it. I don't see an issue with it. I know cost is going up, and I don't have an issue.
Trustee Stylen?
I have no issues.
Trustee Fialko?
Nothing.
Trustee Consolino?
Nothing.
Trustee McNaughton?
No, it looks
Madam
good.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 3, consider for approval an ordinance granting a variance to permit a mix of brick, stone, and stucco siding materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards 7567A applicability and scope, type of building or structure of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R3 Single Family Residential District at 13914 West Aaron Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko?
I'll second.
Trustee Reinders? I'm like practicing holding my breath for some reason when I'm reading these. Trustee Fialko?
Although we do like to help home builders when they're moving into Homer Glen and making a huge investment, we have given this several different times for houses not exactly like this one. And my concern at this time, and I guess I'm going to end up deferring to Joe if it's okay with you, it seems to be a much smaller house, and it's just my opinion, just the way the picture that was provided doesn't look right to me. I don't know if it's just that picture that's making me look at it that way, but in the area around it, I do see that other houses do have been given that variance to be able to do the same thing. I can't tell the size of the house just by the pictures that were given here. And Joe, would Joe be able to help us out a little bit here?
Sure. And I notice the petitioner's here. If you want to step up and answer any questions, you may. Joe, do you want to answer Trustee Fialko's?
Yeah,
questions?
I don't know, I don't believe we've been, actual building permits been submitted for this property yet.
Not yet.
So we don't have the actual blueprints for the property. There is, on that block, I believe, similar ranches being built right now by O'Malley Builders on that street, similar in size. And I do also believe there may be size requirements in the covenants of that subdivision.
Oh, not really. Okay, so this home is gonna be 2,366 square feet. All three, there are gonna be 5 homes on that street and 4 of them on one floor, ranch homes. So I brought some more pictures here that my designer and architect did. So if you guys can look at it, because exactly that picture doesn't really show what we're looking for.
If you want to hand it to the deputy clerk, Gina, she'll be able to pass it down to us. Thank you.
May I ask her, I'd like to just ask, you know, you're building in an area, it seems like it's a very nice area and everything else, and those are a little bit bigger lots and everything. Do you think, I know you're asking for the variance, but wouldn't it be in your best interest as an investment to maybe use on that style of house, go with what the code calls for? It almost looks like that would be better for you, and it might cost a couple dollars more now, but your investment now will pay off later. That's kind of the way I'm seeing it with this style of house. Ultimately, it's your choice, but that's would be my concern for you.
Yeah, the reason why I'm here, I just want to have more options, because we are talking to our builders and I'm looking at different designs. So for now, I'm not sure which way we're gonna go, but I just want to have more options.
Okay, see, I didn't realize it. So you just want this as an option in case you choose to go that way, but you haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah,
Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, because my builder advised me to come here first and get that variance in case I go with that stucco, with that look.
Do you think we would be better off waiting till you get to that point and then make a decision? And then your builder could explain, you know what I mean?
I know, but I would still prefer if you guys can vote it and for now, and I can move on to the next step.
Well, you haven't decided yet, though, so that makes it a little more difficult, especially when you've got square footage sizes, I guess, but.
Yeah, 2,366.
Actually, in these pictures, this does give it a little more definition and put some life to it. So thank you for providing these.
Trustee Fielko, are you done?
Yes.
Joe, I'm sorry, Trustee Randers, I know you're not, but I wanted to clarify. What's the minimum square foot for a ranch home?
Yeah, we really don't have one. Yeah, unless it's in the covenants, what I mentioned, there typically isn't.
I remember building my ranch home.
That was probably in your covenant.
This looks a lot.
It was probably an HOA, Chris.
This looks a lot nicer than what we were given. So.
Yeah, I do agree.
Same picture.
As I had mentioned, it's generally in the covenants. We have a minimum square footage that's required for a subdivision, like Evelyn's Gate or Stonebridge or some of the other ones.
Okay. Trustee Reinders was next. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I think the designs are beautiful. And coming from a long line of construction designers, builders, a lot of project managers, I think this is the way of the future. If you look at any of the architectural magazines, you will see that they are using more and more different materials in building. So I think they're beautiful, and I think we should approve it.
Thank you.
Can I go to the rest of the board first? Trustee McNaughton?
Very beautiful property. I know this is how European homes have been built for 20 or 30 years from now, so it's about time.
Exactly.
Like it, yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
You done? Trustee Consolino?
No, thank you for providing the better plans, because there's a huge difference in what we were given. So, and driving by doesn't do anything. It was better to see that on paper. Thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I think the differences in the pictures are, in the ones that you just gave to us, it looks like there's more wood looking by the entryway, and so it adds more warmth to the house. When the drawings that, I think this is probably what Trustee Fialko might be seeing, when I looked at it to see all that white on a ranch house like that, it was a little bit stark, and I wonder if when we look at these building materials in the future, if there's maybe a certain percentage that's like stucco versus brick or something. It was just a little overwhelming, but the drawings that you submitted tonight were much better, and I do like those.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Mason?
I think it's a very beautiful home. As Trustee Stylen states, I think it looks very warm. I love the wood around the door. I see the neighborhood is mixed type of building construction. They all have a little bit of a European look and some traditional as well. And I think it's a very beautiful home, and I support it wholeheartedly.
My turn. These are beautiful. I mean, I hate the color of my brick at my house. I wish I can totally change it. It's like this weird looking brown, but these are beautiful. I just had a question. So there's a couple different designs. I mentioned doors and, you know, siding and whatnot. And personally, it shouldn't matter to me what color house you have because it's what you like and what you want. But I just had a question. So it goes all the way up, and then one's like halfway. This is more or less for Joe. Joe, does that matter to us? Because I know we have like rules of like first ground or first floor.
Well, that's what the variance is.
Right, but the pictures submitted tonight were...
So for us, my plan was to have bottom of the house brick or stone, and the rest of it stucco. But if I'm not gonna get approved for this, we're gonna go with that other option, brick only, that color.
This guy?
No, there isn't. There should be another one.
I don't know. Okay. I don't have to vote unless there's a tie, so I'll ask a question again if it gets to me. But, all right, Trustee Fialko, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Like IKEA, a picture's worth 1,000 words. The picture that we provided compared to your drawing that you provided is like night and day. The house is beautiful. The stone that you have on here isn't like regular, you know, veneer stone either. It looks like you're going with a higher grade option. I did not see that in this original picture. I wish you a whole lot of luck with your investment and building in Homer Glen. Thank you for coming to Homer Glen and building a house here. You will have my vote, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Was there another trustee that wanted to go back around? Okay, I'm sorry, I was just a little confused by the pictures because some show half, some don't, some show wood. It's just really confusing to me.
So just for clarity, is there a particular picture that we are rendering that we are voting on tonight, or the ones that are on?
So that's the clarification I guess I'm asking, because these are new drawings than what is shown here, but some of these photos show stone going all the way up, which is what we allow, but then these photos show like 3/4 of the way up brick, but then these show like, one I thought I saw half, but maybe not.
Yeah, okay, there are different options, but the reason why I'm here, and I'm sorry for the confusion, is for you guys to approve stucco.
The stucco that basically is on what's the screen today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for confusion.
So does everyone understand that, because it's different than what's?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any more questions?
So essentially the property owners.
Right, and that's why I got confused with these. No more questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, moving on to number 4. Consider a motion to approve a site feasibility study to be performed by HR Green to evaluate and estimate costs for the construction of a wastewater treatment facility on potential sites 1 through 5 within the corporate limits of the Village of Homer Glen. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Trustee Fialko and Trustee Mason. Trustee Fialko?
Actually, with this one, if I could, I'd just like to defer any time and explanations to our village engineer, Brett Westcott.
Yeah, I concur with that. Do you have anything else, Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Mason, do you have anything?
I just wonder, and I know why we have to do this, Brett, or Madam Mayor, and I was reading through the IML, and there is a lead service line replacement. It's a distributor for RFPs for lead service line replacements, any sewer water related projects through the Underground Contractors Association of Illinois. And I was just wondering, do we just lean automatically on HR Green, or do we actually put this out to RFP, Brett, or did I miss something?
So this is just a request for professional services?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's under 25,000?
Okay.
So
And
good on
okay, you've
requesting
answered my
that just for
question.
this
Since
day.
it's under 25,000, we have a good working history with HR Green. You're ready to rock and roll. I just had read the other one, and I know we're working on some other issues.
Yeah.
And do we utilize that service at all?
So to reiterate, this is also covered under part of our existing services agreement with HR Green and all of our consultant firms, right? Feasibility studies and things of that matter are all covered under that as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Westcott.
Yep.
So just for clarification, I believe it's 30, not 25. It went up last year,
Even
right?
better.
Just for clarification.
Is that 30 now?
Yeah. Trustee
May I
Fielder?
explain one thing? I believe when we're talking to HR Green, we have a long-time agreement with 5 engineering firms. If it's under a certain amount of money, you can pick, as the engineer, basically any one of those engineering firms that you see fit, and then we approve it, if I remember that correctly, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Trustee Consolino?
That's not what you said, though.
Okay. Trustee Trustee Consolino? No? Trustee Reinders?
I definitely think we need to move forward with this as soon as possible. As I stated in our last board meeting, the wastewater treatment plant is of utmost importance to us, and we need to get moving at it, and we can't wait any longer.
Trustee Stylen?
I agree.
Trustee McNaughton?
No, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, call the roll. Please call the roll.
Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, old business. Who's got what? Trustee Stylen, do you have anything for old business?
Well, I'd like to talk about the signs.
Okay, let's talk about signs. So go ahead, did you have questions on
Yeah,
signs?
I do have a question because for the attorney, he said that there's no prohibiting political signage on residential property.
Yeah.
So as far as right-of-ways and public property, our ordinance would apply.
You would still be able to regulate use your police function, your health, safety, and welfare function, and regulate in the sphere of both the public and commercial space.
Thank you.
Trustee Mason, did you have any questions on signage? Trustee McNaughton, did you?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Consolino, did you have any questions on signage?
No, I gave you the act that I was as partial to as possible, so.
Trustee, you done? Trustee Fialko, do you have any questions on signage?
No, I just think us moving in that direction based on, thank you, Mike, first, thank you very much, Mike. Mr. Pasquinelli, you are fantastic as representation for this village. We've had a few different lawyers here that we never got explanations as you give them, and as close to layman terms as you possibly can, and you're very clear and precise. Thank you for that. And I hope that we move in the right direction now to, put our ordinance in order to fit the criteria that you explained to us. And then there will be none of this back and forth during election times. It's one way for this, one way for, I think we're heading in the right direction. Thank you for that.
Trustee Reinders?
I have nothing, I have nothing.
Okay, I just had 2 questions. So the question of private property was answered, but you kept referring to political signs. That's for all signs, right? Like no matter what it is, if I wanted to put, happy 100th birthday, I was going to say mom, but she's not 100. Love you, mom.
Grandma.
Happy 50th, mom, on my yard, and I wanted to have it for 6 months. That's okay, right? Because it's not, you kept referring to political. I want to make sure that it's not just political signs.
Temporary, the prohibition from Illinois law comes from residential property for political signage. When we say political, we take a very, very liberal view with respect to that. It could be a candidate, it could be a legal issue, it could be a referenda issue, it could be a legal cause that somebody's advocating for. So it would be our recommendation from our firm that you want to take an expansive view with respect to that. Now, that's the prohibition that would remove the village's ability to regulate political signs in that sphere. With respect to where else you want to regulate, you would be free to regulate there, okay? However, then you run the risk of regulating content. And what you do for one form of speech, in this case political speech, you would my recommendation, or our firm's recommendation would be that you do for all forms of speech on residential property. The reason being is when you get caught in the realm of, well, the village is not regulating in this sphere, because the legislature said we can't, but we're not regulating here, but yet we do see regulations in this particular sphere, then the United States Supreme Court comes in, and then they say, well, the whole structure here, the whole state structure here between the state of Illinois precluding Village of Homer Glen from regulating from campaign signs, but now we're regulating other signs on residential property. This whole structure sounds like a content-based restriction. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you have to develop and you have to utilize what they call, or excuse me, the courts will look at this with what they call strict scrutiny, which is a very, very, very arduous, restrictive reading that the court will look at. And that's where the court will then balance the governmental interests and weigh them against someone's political speech rights. So the long and the short of it is, yes, Mayor, you could. You would not be barred from doing that by the Illinois law that I had cited. However, you run the risk of offending the principles that were espoused in, by the United States Supreme Court in the Town decision, which would have implications. So whatever we do decide, or not we, but whatever the village as a collective body, this board decides to do, certainly our firm would assist with reading into what the potential ramifications could be with it.
So do you agree that our current code or ordinance is on the right track?
I wasn't asked to look at it and render an opinion specific with that, but I do note that again, Trustee Fialco and Consolino had provided this to me last week, because again, you know, this board does not say, PJM, Peterson Johnson Murray wants you to go and just go at it, because that would be spending money. We get assignments on a limited task by task basis. And both trustees provided us the information. We started to look at it. In my reading it, there were a couple of provisions that I'm going to bring to the attention of Mr. Baber that we feel need to be modified to be consistent with our firm's opinion in regarding the Illinois code that restricts the ability of the village to regulate signs. And I'll deal with Mr. Baber on that, and we'll get something going shortly on that.
Thank you. Trustee Steinle, do you have anything else for old business? No. Trustee Reinders, did you have anything? Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialco?
I do. Under old business, there's been some questions out there, and I just want to make sure that the public knows. Illinois American Water gave us a refund of $167,000. I don't know why we get that. I've never asked. Why do we get that? Why did we get the $167,000? Joe might know. I'm not sure. And where is that money limited as to where we can spend it or not?
I'm not quite sure I know what refund from Illinois American. I think it was maybe the Northern Will County agency that we got that refund. And it was, yes. That's what it was. It was money that we had given that agency to cover any potential legal cost, but then based on the agreement that was finalized in early 23, we were refunded that money back based on the percentage that we had given in initially.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And I was not on that task force, so I had no idea what that was for. So thank you for answering that, Joe. And on that one, I do have one other thing, though.
Since you just brought this, does anybody else have anything on the water? So I do just have one thing. Speaking about Illinois American Water, there was a line item. Did you ever look at that on the bill?
For the pass-through for?
Yes.
Yeah, what that is, that goes to Bedford Park for their past few charges. So it says municipal, but it's really monies that go to Bedford Park for their pass-through charges there. It's not monies we were receiving through Illinois American.
Okay.
With your question, though, can we explain to the public what the definition of pass-through is? Because the way I understand it, it's leaky pipes within their own facility that they pass that on to the customers within our village. Is that factual or not?
Well, this is actually a charge that goes through Bedford Park, the distribution or the,
Unmetered water, right?
no, this goes to Bedford Park, basically. It goes to pay for the Bedford Park distribution line.
Pass-through distribution.
I don't know if that.
So,
I know.
It goes to Bedford Park, the main line that comes from Bedford Park, and that goes then to Bolingbrook and here in Homer Glen, Woodridge and the other communities.
I'll talk about it with you later.
Okay.
so this is a perfect example of why.
It's not anything that we're getting money from on their water bills.
Right.
Our residents we are not getting any money, any monies billed through Illinois American. Homer Glen is not receiving any monies from our bill, our residents' bills.
Right, so this is part of the reason why I have this task force that keeps getting talked about is for clarification, explanation, education. It's for all that, for all the residents to understand all these little nuances that happen and where we pass through and all that other stuff. So that's part of it. And then future issues. And then lastly, that $167,000 that we got refunded from the water, what did we do with it?
I believe it just went back into the general fund where it would have came from initially.
Okay, we'll talk about that later then. Okay, I think it should go back to the users, or the payers, the people who paid into it, right?
Or could we roll that
It came from the
into,
village, though.
Not all our residents are Illinois American customers.
I understand that.
could we roll that over into
Something.
our water treatment facility that we would like to pursue?
It's gotta be something, okay, we'll figure it out.
I could talk to John
Water test.
Sawyers.
Yeah.
I'll talk to John Sawyers and get see where that went
Okay,
and what we can use it for.
all right. You had something else?
I do have one last thing. I just wanted to, our gaming ordinance, we sent it back, it was tabled, we sent it back, and that was 2 meetings ago now. So where are we at with the gaming ordinance and coming back with it?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Nope.
I should have been looking at it.
Yeah, we got 2 people wanting to talk. Attorney, you go ahead first.
Ms. Marquette had provided it to my office, Trustee Fiasco. We are finishing up the 2 things that we were asked to modify within there, and then it will be presented, my understanding is to be presented at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Gina, did you have anything to add to that?
I do have a question for the board. So the moratorium for the liquor, tobacco, and video gaming is going to end on, I believe the 6 months makes March 13th. So I just want a consensus as to, I know we're doing the tobacco workshop tonight, and as the attorney said, the video gaming should come back to the next board meeting to be approved. So I'm just wondering what the board would like to do as far as lifting the moratoriums. If we're going to extend it, are we going to at least lift the liquor and the video gaming and extend the tobacco, or are we waiting until all 3 are done and then lifting it then?
If you're asking me personally, I think this moratorium, we're done. I mean, if we got everything done, the only thing we're really waiting on though is the grandfathering, and that's what we were needing clarification on.
My understanding was that the questions that we were asked to modify, or just to make sure that we're covered in there, were number 1, the grandfathering, and then secondly, to make sure that there couldn't have been, excuse me, some structured deal that would skirt around the goals and objective of the ordinance, meaning that if some business were to sell assets and someone else would get control of it, would they be able to just walk in the shoes of a gaming license holder? I believe it was the trustees had asked us to make sure that that would be, the village would be protected with respect to that, and that's what we're working on.
Yeah. Anybody else have an opinion on that? On the moratorium being, because it was a 6-month moratorium and we're coming up to that date. So Gina's looking for direction on, do we want it on the next agenda to end the moratorium? Well, I guess if we only put a 6-month on it, do we have to? It expires on its own, right? Yeah. So you guys,
Won't it just expire
Yeah.
at the 6-month period?
Yeah.
So it really doesn't need to come before us, we just need to wait
the 6 months, or do we want to end it?
for litigation or in the proper terminology for legal to get back with us, and that's it.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Oh.
It's been completed, it's just, I have to review it again with Mr. O'Grady, and then it gets put on the agenda packet.
Got it. Okay, so we should be wrapped up by then. All right.
Anybody else, old business? Trustee Consolino? No. Did I miss someone over here? Okay. New business? Trustee McNaughton?
No, ma'am, thank
Trustee
you.
Consolino? No. Trustee Mason? No, ma'am. Trustee Fialco?
Clark Mosquito.
How do you spell mosquito?
We spell it Mosquito.
Sorry, just a little humor from back in the day.
But if you could ask Joe, I just want to make sure that the village is ready for springtime and we're getting our Clark Mosquito people geared up, ready to go, and that they are also going to be treating Homerfest like they have in the past.
Can you answer that? And is there something they can do about cicadas coming?
I don't know if there's anything we can do about cicadas, but
And can we track them?
into the Clark spraying and coverage at the fest, and I will let everybody know our status on that. And I will put it on. I will get it on our website as well to alert the residents.
Is that it, Trustee Fialco?
That's it.
Trustee Reinders?
Okay, I was going to ask about the cicadas too. They're coming.
Trustees Dylan, did you have anything?
No.
No. Trustee Mason, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I think we left off with being able to track to make sure that they're actually providing the service. And we did say they had GPS on their units, right?
I will get a full report on the Clark.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joseph.
All right, workshop. Oh, yeah, Trustee Fialco.
Joe, with the mosquito stuff, and if you don't mind, with the mosquito stuff, I just want to make sure once we start treatment and spring gets here, that we place that video of Jack Pemish talking about the spray and how it doesn't affect the pollinators, and that helped out last year, and then we can direct everybody. When he first starts spraying, if we could get that video on the front of the web page, so that's covered once again this year.
We will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for anything? Sorry, we had a sidebar. No? Now? No? Okay. We have a workshop discussion regarding Article 3, sale of tobacco and tobacco products. Gina?
Okay, I will make this very quick. So my goal tonight is just to go over my findings in regards to other communities and what they're doing as far as their tobacco code compared to us, and then just get a consensus from the board, the things that you guys would like to see changed in our tobacco code. So currently, right now, we have 24 businesses with tobacco licenses. And then we have a map of their locations and the types. So we have 11 retail tobacco shops, 8 gas stations with tobacco licenses, 1 convenience store, 1 country club, 1 drugstore, 1 liquor store, and 1 retail tobacco shop and lounge. And we can go back to these slides after I go through if anybody has any questions regarding them.
What slide number was that?
Yeah, go back.
Oh, wait.
Oh, whoa.
That one?
Yeah. What slide number?
This is...
That's all right. We'll remember what slide number when I say
Okay.
which one was that? Yeah.
Just in the map. Okay, so then I did a comparison with our 9 peer communities, and as you can see, all of them allow tobacco licenses. 4 offer regular tobacco licenses. 2 of the communities combine their tobacco license with the business license. And then there's 3 communities that offer different types of classifications for tobacco licenses. So for example, Romeoville has a retail tobacco license, and then they have one for alternative nicotine products, electronic cigarettes, and then they also offer a multi-products retailer license. And then I believe Mokina and Frankfurt also offer different types of tobacco licenses. And then I also looked at local restrictions. So you have 3 communities that restrict the number of tobacco licenses. 6 communities have a distance requirement in regards to schools, parks, and educational buildings, and 1 has a distance requirement of where the tobacco shops are located. And I believe it's Lockport does, and they have to be 1,000 feet separated from each other. So then the other thing that I looked at in regards to peer communities was the license fee. So as you can see, we currently charge a license fee of $250, and a lot of them, they're a lot less, except for Romeoville. They have a $250 application fee, along with, they charge $650 per license. And then there is Frankfurt that also has a $100 application fee, and then they charge $200 for their Class A and then $500 for their Class B tobacco license. And then I also looked at background checks, and as you can see, only 2 require a background check, and only 1 does board approve as far as increasing and decreasing the tobacco license. And let's see, I believe it was 3 that actually, it has to be board approved as far as approving the tobacco license. The rest do not. Then I also included a permitted and special use table for reference. And then things that I wanted the board to look at as far as regulatory controls were as far as the language in regards to what we currently have. So you have like all products to be prepackaged, no custom product mixing or manufacturing, location requirements as far as where the tobacco shops are at compared to the schools and educational buildings, or if you wanted to put in a requirement in regards to tobacco shops being separated from other tobacco shops. And then clearly defining vape, e-cigarettes, and alternative nicotine products to coincide with state definitions, adding language as far as regulating the vending machines. And then other things I was wondering if the board should consider is, does the board want board approval for the tobacco license? Should the fees be increased? What restrictions or guidelines the board would like to add? Should a background check be required for tobacco license? And should there be a cap on the number of tobacco licenses? Yes.
Okay. If you guys don't mind, but I'm going to kick this off, and hopefully we can all just agree and move into exec. But Gina, first of all, thank you for your hard work on this. I know it wasn't easy. I know there's a lot that you put into this. I love the control ideas. I would be a little bit more restrictive on the feet away from a school. I don't know what just happened to the computers, but you had no more than 1,000 feet from another tobacco place, but I think it should be more than 100 feet. You have 100 feet from a school. I think it should be more. I know we have one instance right now where it is 100 feet from a school, so we can't do anything about that right now, but I do think it should be farther away from schools. I think you got to jack the fees up. We have way too many tobacco shops in Homer Glen. I understand the convenience stores have to, that's part of their whole thing, I get that, but the standalone shops, we have way too many, and we got to cut them out. I do think background checks are necessary. The one question that I can't seem to find out, and I've asked a ton of people, nobody has a straight answer, but can you find out, or maybe you know, if you're a cigar place and don't sell any vapes or tobacco, do you need a license? It says cigar. I saw, I didn't see cigar. I saw nicotine, aerosol. Where does it say? But alternative nicotine products.
Various potential.
But that's not a cigar, right? So it says clear to find vape, aerosol. Am I looking at the right thing? Here.
I would say it's a nicotine product.
Yeah, but alternative nicotine products, is there nicotine in a cigar? No. There is nicotine in a cigar?
There's tobacco. It's tobacco, so it automatically has nicotine, yeah.
I'm gonna have a talk with one of my boys. All right then, that answers that. All right, so then, okay, that answers that. Does everyone agree with what I just said? Like, the restrictions that Gina presented are great. Should be a little bit more than 100 feet from a school. Background checks should be, jack up the fees. We shouldn't have as many tobacco shops. Everybody agree with that? Is everybody in the same?
Are you going to go through each person?
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, go ahead. Trustee Fielko, do you want to kick it off first?
For one, I think we should have time to review this and then make the changes that we see fit, and then submit them from each one of us to Gina Marcotte. And then we can put the whole thing together and then look at it at that point. I do believe that we're, again, with gaming, I didn't read the whole thing yet, but I do believe that we should be careful as far as grandfathering somebody in too. If we're changing rules and somebody's invested in a business and now we're changing rules where they don't fit exactly, now if the business sold, that would be it. And I almost think the same thing with gaming, but I'll stick to tobacco right now. They should be grandfathered in so we're not being sued because a business is now going out of business because now they don't fit the criteria that we just changed. So that would be one of the things that I'd be concerned about. And that would be it for me.
I apologize. I thought we went over this before. Maybe that was just me and you. I don't remember. I thought the board had already received this packet at some point. No? Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like we've been working on this for like 5 years already. Okay. Trustee Consolino, did you have anything?
We had some issues, I remember last year, with somebody who kind of was able to skirt in under somebody else's license, and there were things like sex toys being sold, so I'm uncomfortable about grandfathering, Dan. I just am. I do like the idea of, like this is, similar to what the mayor said. I definitely want a limit on licenses. The more square footage we can demand that a place be from a school, the better. I prefer board approval. I definitely want background checks. I like the fees that were presented by, I think it was Frankfurt and then Romeoville. So they had good fees.
Gina, can you go back to that slide real fast because I don't remember what theirs were. Sorry, Trustee Johnson.
I think they were both similar. So yeah, Frankfurt.
Wait, you liked which one? Frankfurt and
I think Romeoville, yes. So between those two, we
Frankfurt was low.
Medium. Yes, it was lower, but they're the only ones.
Oh.
There were very few that seemed to have any fees. So I think maybe we had like more restrictions, so Romeoville's is even more attractive than Frankfurt's.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Trustee Reinders, we went through you already, right? Or no? Oh, do you want to go ahead?
I tend to agree with Jen. I don't think we should grandfather, I don't think that we should grandfather anything in. We have entirely too many tobacco shops in Homer Glen. And that makes me think about what we went through last year as well, because when we went, we did not want to, more and more businesses are trying to sell their assets to a relative or another member of the family or a cousin or a friend, and they think that it's very easy that they could just come in and assume their license and everything is fine. And where our ordinance stands right now, there's really nothing that we could do about it. And I mean the way our ordinance reads. And I think we need to change that because I think we really do need to do background checks. I mean, in light of, I remember a few years ago where there were interstate where they were selling cigarettes to tobacco stores with no stamps on them and nobody was catching them. And then finally they did a sting and there was a huge arrest. So I think it needs to be a little bit more regulated than it is. And I seriously think we need to do background checks. And I think our ordinance needs to be a little bit more restrictive for us to be able to limit them. And one of the things that I did see in here was that I think it was New Lenox that they only can be allowed in industrial areas. So I mean, if we actually had an area where we believed that we could limit the amount of them and keep them in that one area where they're not spread all over town, I think that might be something to think about as well. But I do not agree with grandfather.
Trustee McNaughton.
Yeah, I'm a little opposed to not grandfathering them. You know, we've had this conversation about gaming and about liquor and about grandfathering those, but now when it comes to tobacco, we're talking about not grandfathering them. I agree we need to change the ordinance. I just also don't want to impact businesses that have played by the rules. Then we change the goalposts and then we're like, oh, you got to change your business. So I'm opposed to that, but if we could look at the ordinance around that, you know, then I would be, you know, for that.
Trustee Mason?
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Fialko,
Trustee Mason, please address me.
No, I concur with Trustee Fialko.
You were addressing him.
And Trustee McNaughton. I don't want to affect the businesses that are currently already doing business. As Trustee McNaughton states, I don't want to move the goalpost and then penalize a business and chase them off. I agree with Trustee Reinders as well. Background checks are important. I don't know how we address that, if they're giving it or selling it or willing it to their son, nephew, cousin, whatever the case may be. Maybe we do need to look at it, work on it. I don't want to penalize any kind of business, but we definitely need to keep it away from the schools. I smoke, and I don't want it near a school. You know, bottom line, it should be as far away and cost as much as possible, because it's a bad habit, period.
Thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I like the idea of 1,000 feet versus the 100 feet for the distance, and I think that should be for property line, not building. And I totally agree with limiting the number. I don't know how you could not grandfather an existing, like what do you can't just make a business shut down. You know, so I would concur with Trustee Fialko and McNaughton and Mason, like, I don't know how you could not grandfather. And then also, yeah, raise the fees, and I don't think it needs board approval. I think the village manager could also do the issuing of the licenses. I know that was like another question on there.
Okay, just for clarification, when you said 1,000 feet, it was 1,000 feet from business to business that has the tobacco, and it was 100 feet from the school, correct?
Oh, you're right. It does say 100 feet. Yeah. So I think you could increase that. Yeah. But it should be property line, not building.
Correct. Yeah. Like inside door, like how, but okay, so what I think, I agree with everybody, but I think what we do for one, so if we're doing grandfathering for gaming and whatever else, we have to do it for tobacco too. I mean, I get it, but if we do one for one, we have to do one for all. Board approval, we don't need board approval now for the tobacco, but it's the clerk and the village manager.
The village manager.
Just the village manager. But they sign the license, the tobacco license signed by the clerk. But correct. I don't think you need board approval if they're following all the guidelines and we're following the rules, but then that would mean we have to put a restriction on how many we're allowed. Mm-hmm. So the only way we would need board approval, let's just say, Gina, can you go back to that one screen I said? So it looked like, I remember it said like 11 of this and then 8 of that, and all right, so you have 11 retail tobacco shops, 8 gas stations, 1 convenience store, 1 country club, 1 drugstore, 1 liquor store, and 1 retail tobacco shop and lounge. So that's 25 places in our town that sells cigarettes or tobacco or nicotine. Or cigars. So that's a lot. So the only way for it not to come back to the board is we would, as a board, would have to say no, cannot exceed like 25, right? Correct, attorney?
From what I'm listening to, Madam Mayor, yes, correct.
Okay, so, but I don't even like it being at 25. I think 11 retail tobacco shops is crazy.
Yes. A town of 24,000 people, yeah.
But when we grandfather now, we're gonna run into that issue.
Mayor, when you get a chance.
Yeah, Trustee Fialko. And
I just wanted to clarify with grandfathering, our tobacco license have to be renewed in April. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't saying that we should grandfather like the business if it's sold. I'm saying we should grandfather if we're changing the rules for the established businesses that we have presently. We would grandfather only them, because you can't change the rules, and now in April, they've got to get their license, and now all of a sudden, they got to close because we have new rules. So that's, I wanted to clarify, that's not what I meant to grandfather. I do think we need to be careful with grandfathering, and maybe the attorney can help us. Grandfathering after they want to close and there's a sale. When that sale, I don't think we should have to allow a tobacco license to progress to the next generation or the next business, whoever's buying it, like an Italian restaurant. So the thing is, I don't know legally what we can do with that. My only thing was for grandfathering I meant only for the established businesses, and that they wouldn't, in April, okay, all of a sudden the rules change, now you got to close your doors. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of thing what we talked about before with the gaming. What's the grandfathering rules? So I think what we do for that, we have to do for the other. But you're right, I think we should all take our little packets back and think about that, because now that I'm seeing that there's 11 individual shops, that just seems like too many in a town. And if you look where all these little bubbles are, they're all like right within each other. So throw a number out. I mean, I think 5 individual ones is enough. It's more than enough, because you have the gas stations and all those other places that sell it. I mean, you can't restrict gas stations because it's a gas station. That's where people get it. Convenience stores, I mean, country club, I mean, we only have the one. Drugstore, liquor store, I mean, I don't know, let's, you guys have fun.
Aren't you going to announce you quit smoking?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
no
it's
easy
tough.
task.
It's not easy. So, all right, any more comments or anything on this? Nothing? All right. We need a motion to go into executive session for discussion pertaining to potential real estate acquisition, discussion pertaining to municipal utilities, and discussion pertaining to employee compensation. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fielko and Trustee
will second
McNaughton, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We have a 5-minute break.
5 minutes.